James, what was your favorite Conan match?
None of this makes any sense to me.
That's fine.
Nope. If it's not the British Bulldogs, I don't know.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very
you,
good.
James.
Very good.
That's the second name drop too from Lenny Poffo.
Yeah, Lenny
his
Poffo
first-
and the
that's his
British
first guy.
Bulldogs.
Yeah, there we
This is-
go.
Even
James got
Lenny?
range.
Yeah.
Hammer's a big rock and wrestling connection era guy. It's good stuff. James, it's looking bad. Anthony Davis is returning to Dallas's lineup tonight in Brooklyn. Kings got Boston and Oklahoma City the next 2 nights. They're going to have to earn a play-in spot. We thought maybe a week or two ago they're going to like stumble in and just have to compete in the play-in. They're going to have to earn a spot in the play-in these next few weeks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Dallas has like the 18th most difficult schedule remaining. Like, this isn't, they have a cupcake schedule. The Kings, after the next 2 games, their final 10 are a lot easier than most teams. I think that they'll probably be like 15th or 18th, somewhere around there after you get through these 2 games. But you got to get through these 2 games. And this is like one of the worst back-to-backs I've ever seen. I don't care if it's at home or on the road. This is like literally the finals matchup. You're going to get to see the Western Conference and Eastern Conference like likely final favorites heading into the next 2 nights. And it's just really difficult. You are going to have to earn it if you think this team is just going to back up into the play-in. That's which it feels like that's what they've been trying to do for the last 2 weeks. That's just not going to fly. Especially, I don't know that Dallas is a serious contender for that spot, even with AD, but it makes them more dangerous. And the Kings need to get right. They need to figure it out.
Well, you don't have to be dangerous. You just have to be a smidge bit better because those 3 teams, there's no telling what the next couple of weeks will look like for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you have no idea. Again, the Kings, once they get done with this 2 games here, they've got Portland, who's playing much better, and then they go on the road for 5 or 6 games, and that's not easy either. You're going to finish the season with a couple of winnable games, but you still have a team like the Cavs on the schedule as well. You have the 3 best teams, and maybe even 4 of the 5 best teams still remaining on your schedule, because they still have a game against Denver, if I'm not mistaken. So Denver, Cleveland, OKC, and Boston, it's gonna be brutal.
Yeah, I mean, they seem like they're leaking oil as we come down the stretch between sickness, injury, the schedule. Just they seem like they're just trying to get to the finish line, and for them right now, the finish line is an opportunity to make the playoffs. Finish line ain't even the playoffs right now. It's like, yo, just give us the chance, and maybe that might rejuvenate them. But yeah, they feel like they're leaking oil right now, man. And like you said, now they got this sickness going around the locker room that's been hitting people left and right for the past week or so.
Yeah, it's not good. You mentioned it. They have a couple of guys. Devin Carter, Malik Monk are both questionable due to illness. I checked just a few minutes ago. We don't have an update on those guys. The Boston Celtics injury report has been updated. And even Jaylen Brown is questionable in this game, which I thought he was out for longer than a couple of games. Sam Hauser is questionable. Al Horford will not play. So we might get to see like the Neemias Queta revenge game here in Sacramento. That would be fun. But the Kings are in a spot where it doesn't matter who they play; they just have to play better, and they've got to find a way to pick up a win here or there. And it's not something that's been super easy. They've lost 6 out of 8, but like nobody feels bad for you. This is the NBA. Their front office made decisions at the deadline that impacted the ability to win, positively and negatively. And here we are, coming down the stretch of a season where it sure does look like the Kings are going to be a below 500 team in the post All-Star break, sort of run. And that's not great.
Hammer, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Sam Amick, your friend, who we're not allowed to speak to, just tweeted Domantas Sabonis will return from his ankle injury tonight against Boston. It's only been 1 week since his ankle injury that was expected to keep him out much longer. I didn't think Domas was going to play a single game on this homestand. The timeline that they gave us had him not playing on this entire homestand and maybe missing the Orlando game to start the road trip. How did we get here, James, to where he's playing with 3 games left at home?
You know, he's a tough guy, and he also has a lot of reasons to play. You know, like Domas is, he needs 9 more games in the final, 12 to be eligible for All NBA. Whether he makes All NBA or not, I have no idea. But you know, there is incentive for him to play. Not only the award, but I believe it's a $1.3 million bonus for making All NBA. So this is it's crazy that he could possibly return from what the team deemed a moderate ankle sprain. Again, I don't know, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. They just threw that out the window and with moderate. But it wasn't mild and it wasn't severe. So I'm going to say that this is a pretty fast recovery for anybody. But like, look, Domas takes care of his body each and every game. He has a regiment to maintain his body throughout the season. The fact that not only did he get headbutted in that game and needed 4 stitches, but he is also coming off a hamstring injury. You know, it's shocking that he's only going to miss a week. They were going to evaluate him on Thursday with the potential. You know, there was a potential he could have played on Thursday against the Blazers, but now we're seeing that timeline just fast forwarded completely. I would not be surprised if he can't play in back-to-back games yet, which would mean, you know, if he plays tonight, he might not be able to play tomorrow. But this is the game, if I'm circling one of the 2 games that you could possibly get. This is no disrespect to Jesse Celtics, but you know, it's a front side of a back-to-back. It's your, what is it, 4th game in 6 nights, and you're playing a team that's coming off a back-to-back and a road back-to-back where they had to take a flight late last night and got in and all that stuff. So I think this is, if you were going to guess which game the Kings would be able to compete with, it would be this game over the OKC game tomorrow.
And James, I want to know what you think about this. I think the time for you know, these guys, you know, we're not playing them on back to backs and all this other stuff, you know, as they get back from injury. I think that time is out the window. If Domas plays tonight and the ankle responds well and, you know, he's feeling like he's 75, 80% of himself, I would have him out there on Tuesday against OKC. Like we're not holding on to anything at this point. Every game matters. And I'm not saying, oh, you better go out there. That's not what I'm saying. But like, if you can go and you're comfortable with playing, Domas, we need you, big fella. We'll see you on Tuesday as well. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's, are you injured or are you hurt? If you're injured, let me take you to the hospital and we'll go get an X-ray. If you're hurt, rub some dirt on it and let's go. And you know, I think that's simplifying things, but that's the way I grew up playing sports, and I believe that's the way that Domas grew up playing sports. The dude is an absolute warrior. And you know, he played, what was it, 70, 65 games with a avulsion fracture in his thumb. Like, he just
Yeah.
keeps going out there and playing. It doesn't matter the bumps and bruises. And I think this has been a difficult stretch for him, but he also is out. He's watching what's happening and he wants to be part of the playoffs. Whether that's possible or not, we have no idea. I think there should be some concern about him coming back too early and then playing on a mushy foot for the rest of the season and not really having his A game when you get to the playoffs, or the play-in, if you do make it that far. But at the same time, you got to get there. You know, we can't just move the finish line here and say, okay, well, you know, Domas is just going to sit until 3 games left in the season and we'll have a tune-up and he'll get ready, because that might not be the case. You might not be part of the conversation by that point. And so I think it's bold by Sabonis, but he's also under contract long-term. You know, an ankle sprain, he might need, you know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the season to make sure that it's healed 100%. But like this is what a good teammate does, and this is what a warrior does when his team needs him. And so I'm pretty impressive by him.
That was a hell of a build up for Domas right there. How different is Kings basketball different when Domas is around?
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, you hope it is. To be honest with you, I not only do I want him to come back and play, but I really hope that like he's more assertive and they run the ball.
Oh, that's never good. I've been begging for that and was called a hater for 2 years.
Wanted him out of here.
Yeah, I mean, there is something to what we're watching on the court that to me is just not pleasing to the eye. And it's isolation basketball, like way too early, way too often, all the way throughout the game. And that's why you need Domas. You need Domas in the game to distribute. And I've compared like the way that Domas plays is a little bit like a hostess at a restaurant or a host at a restaurant, right? Everyone thinks that that those people, that the people who are standing there checking your reservation and walking you to a table and handing you a menu are just doing that. But what they're doing is they're balancing the entire restaurant. And it's just something that people don't really pay attention to. They're making sure that that your servers aren't overwhelmed in one area of the restaurant and not underwhelmed with people in another area. They're distributing what's happening throughout the restaurant. They're timing things. They're making sure that, again, like you have a table of 18 coming up, but there's 3 tables out there, and people think, hey, why can't I just go sit in those tables? Like, no, you can't sit there because we have a giant reservation coming in a few minutes, and we need that spot. And I know it's kind of a weird analogy, but that's what Domas is for this team. He's the one that makes sure that everybody gets a certain amount of shots, that people get a certain amount of space on their shots, that everything is sort of in proper order on the court. And when they don't go to him and they don't feature him in that way, this team just doesn't run very well. And I think it's something that is sorely missed. This team does not have a true point guard, and he acts as that point guard for this team, and they need him out there desperately. And I also think, like, look, he's a ground-based player. He's not a guy who goes up and dunks over the top of everybody every single time, every game. He's not somebody who takes off and flies from the free throw line. And so I think that there is a way in which he's able to play and be effective with a bad wheel. And that's what I think the Kings are probably hoping to.
Yeah, I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. This team needs one of their guys back. You know what I mean? And Domas, between the hamstring and now this rolled ankle, we just haven't seen a lot of them. And to your point, he kind of balances everything out, settles things down because he is one of the leaders on this team. And they've been missing that as of late. So he's able to get back out there tonight and hopefully no injuries the rest of the season, and they can go down the stretch run with Domantas Sabonis. That would be major. That would be major. You know what I mean? There was some question of, just all right, JV, aka the Nasty Boys, looking good out there. All right, but when you see it for a sustained period of time, oh no, you need Domas out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's one of those guys in the league for a reason, and they missed him.
Yeah, and like, look, I think the fact that you have Jonas Valanciunas there is great. There's going to be a moment here where Jonas is asked to play, longer stretches of the game, because what you don't want to do is get Sabonis all warmed up and then sit him for a long stretch. And so I think that there is going to come a point where they're sharing minutes a little bit here over the next couple of games as you're trying to get Sabonis like back up to speed. But that's why you have it. It's not just for, we talked about this early on. It was just as a 12 to 13 minute per game guy that can come in and give you like really, really good minutes. But also, he's been so invaluable to this team as someone who can step on the court and play major minutes. And it doesn't always work out great. There are times where, he does get played off the court because he doesn't defend the perimeter well enough. But I think with him there, it just gives you that insurance policy that Sabonis can play whatever he thinks he can play. And I don't know if they're going to put a minutes restriction on him or not. The Kings medical staff has not liked to do minutes restrictions over the last maybe couple of years. If a player is ready to play, they're ready to play. If they're not ready to play, then they're not ready to play, and you're not going to play them at all. And so for me, it's kind of surprising that he's coming back this quick. But also, I would not be shocked if he plays close to 25 to 32 minutes in this game, and especially if it's close, if you're going for broke and you're trying to beat a really, really good team. Sabonis might have to be out there more than anyone is comfortable with him being out there.
Well, man, there's a lot of concerns with this, though, isn't there, Hammer? Because he's coming off of the ankle injury, which is coming off of the hamstring injury. And the first thing we talked about today was the fear of overcompensation. And while maybe you're protecting the ankle a little bit, you wind up hurting the hamstring. And the hamstring is the one where I feel like Domas will deal with pain with his ankle, but the hamstring could be the one that's like, yeah, this is cooked. This could be done for the year.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, this extra week probably really helped the hamstring. He looked like he may have pushed it to get back. Especially we saw that play. Who was it that threw him around and he kind of tweaked something in the game before he got hurt again? I can't remember. Oh, it was Memphis. Maybe it'll come to me. Maybe
it wasn't Zach Edey, huh?
No. It was a smaller guy that got off. Well, maybe it wasn't Memphis then. All the games running together at this point.
Wasn't it? Wasn't Memphis?
It was his first game back. So, and I'm not sure which game that was.
Because he only played that game, right?
No, he played. He played two. He played the next game as well.
Okay.
I want to say, was he out for the Cavs? No, he was playing in the Cavs game. That's the game where Malik went out. Was missing. Yeah, like no. That's where Levine was missing.
Yeah, Domas played Phoenix and Memphis.
Right. That's right.
Phoenix. So it was okay. So
it was Mason Plumlee when he gave him that elbow to the throat.
Oh no, that's when he cut his eye. Yeah.
Okay.
This whole conversation is stupid. What are we talking about?
Getting beat up left and right.
He is getting beat up.
Domas getting his ass whooped.
Oh, it was Ryan Dunn. That's who it was. Ryan Dunn grabbed him by the arm and kind of spun him, and that's where Sabonis grabbed his hamstring in that first game back. Yeah. Weird. These games all running together, especially we're in the middle of 5 games in 7 nights. It's just crazy.
Ryan Dunn, Plumlee, then
Luke Kennard
heads with him, and then I forgot whose foot he stepped on. Might have been Jalen Wells. I think it was Jalen Wells, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it
was. I hope he can survive tonight. Not going to get roughed up by Al Horford, so I.
Yeah.
Cornette.
It's Cornette. What a mess. What a
They need
mess.
him though. They
need Domas. They need guys to. I don't know. I said this. You don't have to play perfect, but you got to do a lot of things right. I mean, James, what was your assessment on Saturday's game? They played well. They were in position and couldn't close it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I thought they went ISO way too early. They just got away from their offense, and we discussed this with Kenny earlier, and Kenny's right. I mean,
discussing it since we got here.
Yeah, I mean, no, Kenny's right. In the end of games, you typically go ISO for at least the last couple of possessions, but this last couple of possessions is stretched out into the mid third quarter at this point. And to me, it's just, you're taking all the joy out of the game of basketball, because it's really not fun to watch one person control everything that's happening on the court. And it's one thing for Chris Paul to orchestrate and to have the ball in his hands and control everything that goes on. But he's distributing. It's another thing to watch a person take the ball and dribble the air out of it and then take the shot themselves. And I know, again, Kenny doesn't agree with me on this, but Like the ISO ball, it's really tough to watch, and it works until it doesn't. And some nights it works the entire game, and other nights it stops working, but they don't go away from it. And so I felt like the last couple of minutes of that Bucks game, the Kings' offense just went straight up to just ISO ball, whether it was DeMar or it was Levine, and you just kind of dealt with whatever the ramifications were for that. And they didn't hit their shots outside of that. And I know a lot of people were upset about Keon Ellis not playing the last 5 minutes, but he also played 37 minutes in that game. And, not only did he play 37 minutes, but he had only scored 2 points in the second half and had a really rough second half with fouls and other things. So, I just, it was a coaching decision and all that. But I thought they were in it, and I thought they played really well against Giannis in the fourth quarter. But in the end, they gave up too many wide open threes, which is what this team usually does.
I chuckled, and I'm sorry. But in the third quarter, DeMar DeRozan took 1 shot in 9 minutes.
Yeah. But what he shoot in the fourth?
In the fourth, but you said earlier, you said that maybe you misspoke, but you said in the third quarter they lost the lead because they went into ISO ball, and he took 1 shot in 9 minutes. He played all 12 minutes in the fourth quarter. He took 9 shots, 4 of 9 from the field.
Yeah, but
and
he's
then-
not the only one playing ISO ball.
Zach LaVine took 8 shots in that third quarter.
Yeah. He's not the only one that's playing ISO ball.
Valanciunas took 5. Keegan took 5. Like there's people who were taking shots.
Yeah.
Trey Lyles got 3. So you talk about like the ball being spread around. I mean, that's pretty good. You got Keegan with 5, Jonas with 5, Zach with 8, Keon with 2, Trey Lyles with 3, Devin Carter got 1, and DeRozan got 1. So I don't know if they were all going ISO or not, but like that's
No, but when we got to the fourth quarter, it was 100% ISO ball. Okay. Like the entire fourth quarter was ISO ball. So I mean, we can go back and watch the tape together, but
one day we will, James.
One day we will.
Man,
One day we will.
James just challenged you to watch the tape with him. I wouldn't take that if I were you. Wow. I wouldn't take that. Jeez.
Yeah, you stop moving the ball and players stop moving. Here's a question for you, Kenny. How many assists they have in the fourth quarter?
In the fourth quarter, they had 3 assists.
Yeah, and what'd they finish with? 25 for the game?
I don't have that in front of me, but I can find it.
Yeah.
I can tell you in
well, what's
2 seconds.
They had 21 for the game. So 18 through 3 quarters and 3 in the fourth quarter. I'm just saying. I mean, you got to keep moving the ball. That's how you keep players engaged.
That's why they lost.
No, they lost because in those ISO, like the last 6 ISO, sets, they missed their shots.
Maybe they lost, and this is going to sound like shade because Jake LaRavia had to play 12 minutes in the fourth quarter.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get that, but like Damian, look at what Giannis Antetokounmpo did in the fourth quarter. Like that, you had to pick your poison, and so I get that. I mean, Giannis scored like ridiculous. What did he score? 18 in the third.
Yeah,
and then he went scoreless in the fourth, or he scored 2 in the fourth, something like that.
Free throw.
Yeah. So I mean, that's why, like, they went big, and I got it. The LaRavia Keegan Murray, lineup to me has been really effective because it just means you're super switchable. And if you're going to send a double team, you're in that double team. You're very switchable in the double team, right? You have 2 very rangy defenders, and look at Kuzma goes 0 for 1, Antetokounmpo goes 0 for 1. Again, Brook Lopez goes 0 for 1. Where you got busted up is in the fourth quarter by the shooting guards off the bench. And, Kevin Porter and Gary Trent Jr. combined for 20 points, and he gave up another 3 to AJ Green. So their bench outscored the Kings bench just in the fourth quarter alone. Like, they had 23 points off the bench in the fourth quarter. The Kings, I think, finished the game with 17 or 18. It's not good.
We'll come back. We'll spend some more time with James Ham before he heads off to the Golden One Center. It's the Sacramento Kings and the Boston Celtics tonight. Can the Kings get back in the win column? They've dropped 6 of 8. Domantas Sabonis is back, according to Sam Amick of the New York Times. We'll spend some more time on that as well. Get you ready for the game tonight. Steeler and KC, brought to you by Sky River Casino and Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. You got that graphic up?
Huh?
You get that graphic up? It's good shit.
Yeah. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. Yes, sir.
Kenny
Just
is
trying
dope
to-
over here.
Graphic design is his passion.
Man. Kenny over here, graphic designer. Kenny in a
Graphic
contract
designer.
here, so he going to rush for 2,000 yards. This man learned a whole new skill set.
Shout out to Kenny for not being weird to him, give him proper credit.
I didn't break it. You
It's
know what I'm
funny.
saying? I was actually I wanted to wait for my boy James Ham, but got to get it out there first. You know what I mean? Got to get out there first.
The graphic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the plan
The
for all that
confirmation.
stuff is always supposed to be James Ham. That's the plan.
Yeah.
That's the
Well, I haven't had time because I've been on the air to reach out and say, hey, can we confirm this? Yeah, I asked Doug specifically, Jim. That's why I pulled this up. I asked Doug specifically about why he didn't go back to Keon. And he said he intended to. It's just, the game got kind of out of control there at the end and he definitely had intended to get Keon back in the game at some point. But also, you had to like what they were doing against Giannis and how he was a non-factor late in the game. It's just that you gave up a whole bunch of points to 3-point shooters, and that's tough. Because you probably could have used Keon Ellis's defense in that final couple of minutes.
In the final 4 minutes of that game on Saturday, DeMar DeRozan took 3 shots. One of them was with 13 seconds to go.
How many did he hit?
He was 0 for 3. But in 4 minutes, it's criminal that he took 3 shots in a close game.
In the final, how many minutes?
4 minutes.
Yeah, but you also had Zach LaVine. Like DeMar DeRozan doesn't get to shoot every single shot in the final 3 minutes and 4 minutes of the game.
That's not what I'm being told. It's like, Zach LaVine, ISO ball, he the problem. He took basically 2 shots in 4 minutes. And that's where the problem is.
No,
That's just not fair.
He lined up on the one baseline and took 2 fall-away jumpers and missed both. And then the next time down, Zach LaVine went to the exact same spot and shot the exact same shot and missed exactly the same. And I think that's where Trey Lyles grabbed the rebound, backed out to the 3-point line and missed a 3. Yeah, Trey missed some big shots down the stretch. And again, they weren't plays that you would run. You didn't run plays for them for Trey or Jake LaRavia or Keegan Murray down the stretch. It was only DeMar or LaVine.
Why would you ever run a play for LaRavia or Trey Lyles in those moments? Like, they may get shots. They may get shots due to action or whatever, but I'm not calling no play in crunch time for LaRavia.
No, I would never call a play for them, but that doesn't mean that part of your offense isn't to move the ball and to find an open shooter, especially for a corner 3. Like we talked about Fox earlier with this, and one of my examples that I would give is, remember back to when Chimezie Metu hit the 3-pointer as time expired. Like De'Aaron Fox had every right to take that shot. He had a floater in the lane if he pulled up. And instead, he flung a ball to the corner to a wide open Chimezie Metu, who hit the shot, and they won the game. Like, that's where, like, just because you're running ISO doesn't mean that you shouldn't be looking for your teammates. Because when you're running an ISO play, everybody is kind of like sitting there, moving towards the shooter, which means that somebody should be open.
When I pointed it out that Monk hit that shot against Cleveland, you said DeMar only did that because he was double teamed, not because like that was right or anything.
No, Kyle said that because I don't remember exactly how Monk got the ball right there. But
I just think you guys are a little unfair with DeMar. That's all. That's all it is. Like, I'm not saying that I don't
I would say this.
That's a little
There,
unfair.
like, there's probably like, I would say like 60, 55% of the time that DeMar goes into takeover mode at the end of a game, he's going to win the game for you, but it's the other games where he doesn't that it stands out so much. It's the 7 shots.
We're coming back in.
All right.
Back here with James Ham, the conversation has not stopped about ISO ball, about DeMar DeRozan, about this is going on 3 hours. James has challenged Kenny to watch tape with him. Kenny so far has cowered away from the challenge.
This is
will.
Andy versus Dwight.
I said we will watch tape. I said we
This
will.
is the duel. Yep.
Yeah, the duel in the parking lot.
James is gonna hit Kenny with his Tesla.
Are you hurt? No, my leg is just falling asleep a little bit.
He's gonna James is gonna pin Kenny against a wall with the Tesla.
That's right. We'll blame it on a terrorist act on our Tesla.
You don't want DeMar back here next year, do you?
Yeah, I'm okay with DeMar coming back next year, but it's got to be under different circumstances. This team has to be different. Like, I don't think you can have DeMar DeRozan and Malik Monk and Zach LaVine all in the same team and in the same starting lineup. And I don't know what that means. Like, whether you move 1, you move 2, you move 3, you know. But if you don't move any of the 3, you're just asking for more of the same. And again, that's not to. I think DeMar DeRozan is a spectacular player, and what he does in the crunch time, a lot of times is super effective. And there are a lot of times where you look at him and you just go, man, he's backpacking this team to a win. There are other times where he's not, and nobody's saying anything. And those are the times where it's like, hey, look, it's okay to not have it. Maybe we did get used to De'Aaron Fox having these fourth quarter magical moments where he takes over a game and he wins. But I also remember quite a few games where De'Aaron Fox missed 1 or 2 shots and then let other people take over. He let a Malik Monk go get a game winner. He let other people. He did not just say, hey, it's me, or either I win this game or I lose this game. That's where we've gotten with some of these games with DeMar. And like, it doesn't have to be that way. He doesn't have to feel that way, and he doesn't have to put that kind of pressure on himself, because his team does have a lot of talent around him. And so if he's back next year, I would hope it would be with a more balanced roster that would allow for some of these things to work. But again, this is a 500 basketball team. They should not return the same roster at all. They need to make changes. And we talked about this with Kevin Huerter forever, about, as much as Kevin was a player that was sort of in out of the rotation, Kevin represented a $17 million salary that you could take 20% back more on. So, you could take back up to 21 million bucks or something, 22 million bucks with Kevin. So we looked at Kevin as more of a contract than a player for quite a bit of this season and part of last season. I think this offseason, you're probably going to look at DeMar DeRozan in the same way. I mean, he's 35 going on 36. He's not the long-term future of this team, and that's not being disrespectful. That's just being honest. He's got 1, maybe 2 years left as a high-end player, and even that is a stretch, because he's going to be 36 next season. And what he's done this year at 35 is remarkable. He walks out on the court and you can write in pen that he's going to score 20 every night. And to me, like, his consistency as a scorer is great. But when he's your, like, de facto at this point best player, you're probably not going to win a ton of basketball games. And again, that's not being disrespectful. That's saying, like, you got a 35-year-old guy out there trying to win basketball games for you each and every night. And that's because either players haven't stepped up, or because you traded your best player, or because in crunch time you don't get the ball to Domantas Sabonis for whatever reason. So it's just a difficult situation. But yeah, I look at him as one of the few ways in which this team can improve this summer, because you're not going to be able to trade Zach LaVine's 46 million bucks likely. So you have to start looking at what can you get, how many players can you pull together to get up around 20, 25 million bucks. So you might be able to go get a really good player. And, when you add in draft picks and stuff like that, and DeMar's contract is going to be one that we circle. And for that matter, Malik Monk's might be as well. You know, he might be a guy that you look at his contract at 20, 21 million bucks and go, okay, is he part of the future? Is he not? And how do we get better? How do we fix the problems that we have with the roster? And sometimes that's by looking at players who make a certain dollar amount and moving them for pieces that make more sense for what you're trying to build.
Yeah, I mean, DeMar also didn't come here with the intention. I don't believe. Maybe I don't. I haven't talked to him about it, but he didn't come into here with the intention of, yeah, I'm gonna be the best player on this team.
Mhm.
Like that's not why he came here. He came here to be part of something, and in the middle of it all fell apart. You know what I'm saying? And I think the Kings, all these guys are doing what they can to try and get to that finish line. Sometimes it's going to work like it did against Cleveland. Sometimes it's not like it did on Saturday. But they're trying to do what Mariah Carey said at one time, doing the best they can with what they got. That's what they're doing right now.
I don't want to get to the point where we're quoting Mariah Carey. That's
Probably not.
bad place to be, man.
Slippery slope there, Kenny.
Doing the best they can with what they got right now. And, on some nights it's like, hey, DeMar, try and bring us home because Sabonis isn't here, or he won't shoot, or Levine won't shoot, or Keegan won't shoot. Somebody got to shoot. You know what I'm saying? Somebody got to try and get these buckets to get wins. And that's what it is. Sometimes it's Malik Monk. The other night against Chicago, I think I just looked at it. It was DeRozan had 6 fourth quarter attempts. Monk had 6. Levine had 5. Trey Lyles had 4. Like, other people are trying to do some stuff. They're just not making shots. When they make shots, it's all good, and we feel good like we did against Cleveland.
I would tell you this, like the premise of what you just brought up, I disagree with. I think that DeMar DeRozan is the same player today as he was on game 1 and game 10 and game 15 and 35. I don't think he's changed at all. I think he's exactly the same. And I think you could look at his stats throughout the season, his splits from, December, March. I think they all look the same. And that's because that's who he is. Like, he's a player who shoots a lot of shots, shoots a lot of fourth quarter shots. Sometimes it goes in, sometimes it doesn't. He's relatively efficient, shooting, close to 49% from the field. But I don't think that there's a huge variance on who he is. And there's not a huge variance on who he is from one game to the next. And, again, I think he came in still wanting to be an all-star level player who got a certain amount of shots and a certain amount of everything else. He was hoping he was playing for a winning team. Now, the team around him has changed and the world around him has changed dramatically. But as far as like who he is as a player and everything else, shot attempts and everything else, I think it's been relatively consistent, except for maybe he's taken a few more 3-point shots as a game has gone, as we gotten deeper into the season. But yeah, I mean, in October, he averaged, is this him? Oh no, this is the King splits, not DeMar. I can show you though, like when we get back to it, but
and there's also been plenty of times when he has told his teammates, "Hey, it's your time, go cook." We have the story with him telling Fox to do that in Phoenix. Who took the last shot against the Clippers a couple weeks ago? It wasn't DeMar DeRozan, it was Zach LaVine. Malik Monk takes the shot the other night against Cleveland. So, like, to say that every time when it's wintertime, he just like don't look at his teammates and doesn't encourage them to take shots. I don't think that's fair, and that's not accurate either. We've seen numerous times when that's not the case.
yeah, I mean, like, look, there are going to be times where his number wasn't called for sure, but I mean, he's been relatively consistent. He's every month this season is between 20.9 and 23.4 points per game. Like, he's been extremely consistent as far as a scorer. And, that's a good thing. Like, even his usage throughout the season has been very consistent, right around 24, 25% for the season. So, like, he is who he is. It was my point. If anything, like, the 3-point shot has been better this season than it has been in the past. And I can look at his numbers and tell you that's the one thing that's inconsistent about him. Every other month, he's really good from 3. So, like, just like the first month of the season, he shot 12%, then 42, then 29, then 50, then 33, then 41, and he's at 24.2. Every other month, he's like the Brett Saberhagen of 3-point shooting this season.
Nice pool.
I think one thing that frustrates me, not even one thing, the thing that frustrates me with this conversation a little bit is this isn't the problem with the Sacramento Kings. Like James, if you were to rate the Kings' problems, like where would this rank? Like this isn't the reason the Kings are fighting off a Dallas team that we thought was dead and a Phoenix team that probably just wants to kill each other for the final play-in spot.
Yeah, he might not be the overall like number one problem on this team, but like when you factor in not just the offensive side of the ball, but the defensive side of the ball, which has not been good, like he's certainly not a solution. And at 35, you're going to have to figure out what your path is forward here for not just him, but for the team. Like, how do you get better if you're the Kings from here on out? How do you get better next season? And you've got to make tough decisions, and you hope you have the decisions to make. You hope that you're able to move on from certain players and not from other players and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, roster construction is probably the biggest issue this team has had all season long. And part of that roster construction issue is that instead of going out and getting length and athleticism at the 3 and the 4, you got, an isolation player who is 35 and hasn't been a solid defensive player for a couple of years. And, so again, we can say what is the biggest issue on this team, but, I don't think it's that far down the list. The points per game and everything else, like a lot of the points that he scores could have been distributed in different ways with this team. If let's say you had a 10-point per game scorer at that position instead of him, like this team could have easily just redistributed those extra points and minutes and shots. And, but that's not the path you chose at the beginning of the season. And again, this season spinning out of control. The chaos of the season is not on DeMar DeRozan. I'm not saying that, but your way out of this and to move forward and to not be a 500 team right now, like it has to be a team effort. It can't be one guy trying to win it every single time. And that's more my point. This is not the beautiful game, right? That's not what we're watching night in, night out. We're watching a lot of ISO hero ball, like time and time again. And it's not just DeMar. But that's typically what happens when a team is functioning in this type of circumstance, where they're desperate, they're trying to get wins, and one guy starts doing the hero ball, then the next guy starts doing hero ball, and then by the time you get to the end of the game, everybody is out for themselves and not trying to make their teammates better, and that's typically a sign of a dysfunctional and not a very good team.
Okay, well,
is James Rockwell? I was going to ask what, but is he? You staying?
Oh crap, James, you got to go. I forgot. James, go. You got to go. Sorry. Bye,
I
James.
do gotta go.
Yep, James. We'll see you later. I forgot.
Take care, James.
Sorry to be negative.
Good to
Come on, everybody.
now Kenny's gonna